Should you play Dark Souls 3? Yes. Dark Souls 3 is 20 times better of a game than this game is. And it's like not even close. Dark Souls 3 is so much better than Elden Ring, in my opinion. Yeah, I literally only got tilted one time in Dark Souls 3, and it was because of the fucking Grave Tender boss. This game I've got tilted like 100,000 times playing it, but it's fine. Elden Ring is so much worse than Souls games. I mean, it's better than Dark Souls 1 and 2, probably, but Dark Souls 3 is my favorite one. It just has more... So, there's a couple things. In this, I don't know if have you played Elden Ring at all? In this game, they went for an open world design for it. Whereas in previous games, it was more linear. But the difference is in this game, because of the open world design, there aren't any like traditional like dungeons as you would imagine. So in this game, if I can get a grace or something here, I'll just go show you. In this game, you don't really have traditional dungeons. You would maybe consider this zone to be one of the like a more traditional dungeon. This zone could be considered kind of like a more traditional dungeon area. But really what you have is like you have this area, which is generally from my understanding, this zone is considered to be like the best zone in the game actually for most people. But you have like a castle, you have multiple different entrances, you can go through the front door, you can go through here, you can take the back entrance, you run up here, and you have, let me show you. You have like a little back entrance with a bunch of enemies. It's cool. Knife birds, yeah. You have a little bonfire here if you try to take the back entrance. You have guards posted up here. We had bird jump scares, yeah. And you have like a whole little like entrance. This is still it's all one castle, right? You go into the castle, there's a bunch of enemies. Bunch of areas. It's fine, don't worry. We're over leveled for here, so it's fine. But basically there's like a ton of, there's like a ton of stuff. So this zone, the way that this castle is designed, basically every level of Dark Souls is designed like this to some degree. It's basically you go from one of these castles to the next castle to the next castle to the next castle. It's kind of the design of it. Rather than having like an open world, it's a little bit more linear. And you have these big branching paths, different ways you can go. This is all just one way. This is all just the back entrance or whatever. You get shortcuts, different resting areas, stuff like that. The paths branch. You get different places, all this stuff, right? It's cool. In Elden Ring, they sacrificed this kind of level design for the open world. You have, look how cool this area is, by the way. This is like the whole courtyard. But they sacrificed this level design for the open world level design. The problem is the open world is just not quite as fun or interesting as really compact, like tight level design where everything is intentional. That's just kind of the reality. There's not always a good Booty Star, hello, hi. It's not always a good idea to do open world stuff. Not that it's necessarily bad, but I think that generally speaking, the levels in Elden Ring are worse than the levels in Dark Souls. That's one reason for it not being as good of a game. The other reason is the bosses are just generally weaker across the board. In Dark Souls, because every boss is like, with some exceptions, almost every boss is a like mandatory fight to some degree, right? Like there's a couple like secret hidden optional bosses, but for the most part, like every boss is like you're kind of forced, you're expected to do every boss, right? In this game, there's so many optional bosses that they ended up really just padding the shit out of the game. There might be like 160 or something bosses in this game versus like 30 or so in the older games. There's like 160 or something in this. But the problem with that many bosses is that most of them are just really shit. Like, most bosses are ass. You fight the same bosses over and over and over again. And they didn't spend quite as much time on each individual boss fight as they would have been able to if they had just had less of them, you know? If they just had less bosses, they could spend more time and effort, like, making sure the bosses are fun. Yeah, a lot of the bosses are just not fun at all. They have, like, a bad habit in this game of just putting in... They have a bad habit of just putting two different bosses in the same room together and calling it a boss. I should have leveled up. They just have a habit of putting like two different bosses in the same room and calling it a boss fight in this game, but like without any intentionality to that design, I guess. Oh yeah, like this guy, you probably fight like 10 of this guy in the game. The other thing is, and this is not exactly... Oh, fuck. This is not exactly, I think, it's a different kind of problem, but, can you stop? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that the levels are a little bit nicer designed in Dark Souls. I think the difficulty curve makes perfect sense in Dark Souls, whereas because you're allowed to like leave in... Oh, fuck. I'm kind of nervous about fighting this guy because I have a lot of souls. Oh my god, I almost fucking died! Best way to get runes in this game as a beginner. Generally speaking, you shouldn't like have to really try to get runes in this game. If you just find an enemy that's a little bit too hard, just go find an easier enemy is usually the best strategy. Yeah, I just like the level design more in Dark Souls 3. I like the boss design a lot more. The bosses are a little bit more. I think there's... Oh, this is what I was going to say. I remember. I forgot. So, one of the problems that they had going into Elden Ring, people have, other than me, have talked about this, some kind of just parroting opinions, but one of the problems that they had going into Elden Ring is that people have gotten good at these games now. And they don't get as many just free kills on people that they used to get when people were just bad at the game. Or just didn't understand how they designed the games. But the problem with that is the game is known for being hard. So it feels like what the developers did in this game was they said, okay, people have gotten very good at these games, but we still want them to be hard. So we're going to take the difficulty level from it's hard but fair to it's not fair anymore. I think a lot of people have criticisms about that with this game. It's one of my big criticisms. A lot of the fights are not really fair fights at all. A few that come off the top of my head are the Godskin duo. It's not really a fair fight. The boss I'm about to do just now is not a fair fight. The twin gargoyles are a really unfair fight. There's just a lot of them that are just not fair. Yeah, they have input reading, stuff like that. The mix-ups are annoying, where they'll have a boss with basically the... Oh, fuck, this guy's alive again. Yeah, so usually, like one of the things that bosses will do in Elden Ring is they'll have an attack combo that could be a 2-hit combo, but it also could be a 7-hit combo or a 5-hit combo or whatever in between. And whether or not the boss extends that combo is partially RNG, but also partially holy fuck, that guy with the big swing. It's partially RNG. It's also partially like, are you still fight? How close are you to them? But there's a lot of attacks where like it might be an opening, but a certain percentage of the time it's not an opening, if that makes sense. So like against Morgott is a really good example. Sometimes he finishes a combo like on attack number 3 like this, and then you can hit him. But sometimes he does attack 1, 2, 3, and then if you stay to hit, he does a 4th attack that is too quick to be dodged if you're in an attack animation. So if you try to punish him for his normal opening, there's just a small chance that he will just kill you, or he'll just hit you. He might not even kill you, but he might just tag you. But just stuff like that. There's like, there's one boss, the Godskin Apostle, got me angry because he has 2 very different attacks that have very different, like you want to dodge backwards from one attack and forwards towards the other attack, but they have the same wind-up animation for both attacks. So there's a chance if you dodge forwards and he does the attack that you're meant to dodge backwards, you get hit. And if you dodge backwards, you're generally always safe, but you never get an opening then if you dodge backwards. So it's like, it's kind of stupid.